Hey y'all, welcome back to the This Calls for Confetti YouTube channel. This is Nancy, the Handy Scandy. Thank you for joining me today. I am going to be using this Boo die set for a very different purpose. You see I have this Faux Sherpa fabric going on my desktop, and I am going to be using the die as a pattern to create a little stuffed guy. So no paper crafting going on today, but we are definitely using This Calls for Confetti products along the way. So this Sherpa fabric that I have was left over from an old comforter that I took apart, and I saved the fabric. And I am just winging this. I am just kind of eyeballing the size of fabric that I need. I have my facing, what's it called? My front facing sides together, and I have my backs out, if that makes sense. So I've made a sandwich where the outside of the fabric, the pretty Sherpa part, is facing each other. And so I am just quickly and down and dirty outlining the die, and I'm outlining about 1/4 of an inch wider than the actual die itself, and that is going to be my seam allowance. Now I have to back up and say I am new to sewing. I am winging this. I'm teaching myself as I go, but I just thought this little guy was way too cute not to share with everybody. So you can see that I've kind of done a rough sketch of the die, using it, like I said, as my pattern. Now I'm pinning all of my pieces together with these straight edges, and I got the best angle that I could on my sewing machine. And again, I'm teaching myself. I don't know how to sew. I'm just making it happen, and I wanted to take you along on my process. So you can see that yes, I'm using black thread instead of white. It probably would have been better had I switched out my thread and my bobbin, but I did not. Honestly though, you don't notice. By the time we're done, you won't know that it was stitched together with black. So I'm carefully and slowly going around the corners, staying as close as I can to my rough drawn pattern there, and trying to follow all the curves. And so when I get to the end, I go forward and back so that I make sure that my stitches don't come open. And I did that at the start as well. I don't know if it really showed it or not, but I went forward and then I went back and I went forward again. That locks in those stitches. And then I lift my, what is it called, a foot, and I pull out the threads and I snip them off, and this is what we have. So you can see that little opening. I would say in retrospect, because again I'm learning as I go, next time I do this, and I will be doing it again, next time I do it I will leave a wider opening because I have a hard time turning this baby right side out. So I take these scissors, and these are fantastic scissors for fabric, and that's something that you want to keep in mind when you're using your scissors. You want to use different scissors for fabric and keep them for fabric. You don't want to use paper scissors for fabric, just because the blades get dull really bad. So I have cut off that excess. Now I probably could have gone along the curved edges and done little notches so that it would lay a little more flat. Again, living and learning. But here my next step is to turn this whole thing inside out, and that's where I was saying I wish that I would have left myself a little bit larger hole. So I do fight with this quite a bit. I use my fingers, I use my fingernails. I bring in this is it's like a barrette. It's the stick in it. It's not really a barrette. I don't know what it's called, but it's a little hair piece that holds my hair. And I used that little stick, and that really helped me. I also had a dowel, and the dowel didn't help quite as much because it was flat on the end. But this little tool was really, really helpful for me because it has the pointy end. And so I'm able to stick it back in the ghostie and help to lay out all of those seams and kind of push out all of those different little curvy spots on the bottom to give him those wavy edges along the bottom. That's what helps to give him the character that he has. And now I have this big bag of polyfill. Now, had I remembered, I would not have bought any more polyfill, because when I took the comforter apart, I actually have 2 trash bags full of polyfill. I just forgot I had them. They were stuffed away, out of sight, out of mind, so I don't have to look at them. And I ended up buying 2 more bags of polyfill. So if you live near me and you need some polyfill, just let me know. I will gladly share my polyfill. So here I am taking just little bitty tufts of the fill and tucking it in, making sure that I work it all the way down into the edges, into all of the corners, and just little by little. You don't want to try to shove big pieces in there. A, because it's already such a tiny hole, you're not going to get a big piece of fill in there anyway, but also because this gives you a little more control, I guess I would say, excuse me, in terms of making sure that it's nice and full. Now, you don't want to stuff it so tight that it's hard, but you want to stuff it tight enough that it does stay in place, that all the fill stays in place, and that your little critter holds its form. So now I am just hand stitching up this little hole. I thread my needle. I'm just doing some down and dirty stitching. I don't even know what the stitch is called. Maybe whip stitch. Does that sound familiar? For any of you that sew, please let me know what this stitch is called. I think it's just called a whip stitch. And then I tie a knot in the end. It does not take long because that hole is probably maybe only about 1 inch long, so it didn't take long. And again, I didn't do anything fancy, nothing particularly neat, but look at how cute. Look at that. And it's still just a little bit bigger than the die. And I'm so in love with it. Now, I lost some of the detail in the curves on the bottom. So there, this one has 4. Mine only ended up with 3, only because they weren't exaggerated enough for you to be able to see them. So here I pull out my small die, or my small die cutting machine, my little tabletop one, and I have some felt. And so I've die cut the eyes and the mouth out of black felt, and then I come back and I use the teeny tiny little pupil dies with some white felt, and I die cut the pupils out as well. We'll see that in just a minute. Right now, unfortunately, I'm a little off screen, but you can see that I cut off the little, I don't know, fuzzy pieces that didn't quite die cut with, that didn't quite cut out with the die. And that's only because my plates are messed up. You can see, or maybe you can't see, but the top plate is like, it's kind of broken a little bit. Here's where I have already glued on the little pupils. I die cut them out. Those are the shapes of the dies. You can see teeny tiny right there on my desktop. Those are the dies. One is intended to be a little bit larger than the other. So just gluing them down with the hot glue. I created these little eyebrows. I thought they were super cute. He has that sweet, surprised expression. I just can't. I mean, look at how stinking cute. The only thing lacking was a little bit of a pink cheek. So I have these little blender brushes that I got from Amazon, and I just used the ink that was already on the brush, and that just made the face just perfect. And then I was trying to decide, did I want to add a bow to the hair or to the neck? And I said, nope, it's perfect as it is. And this, you guys, is such a fun way to stretch the use of your dies, any dies that you have. Think outside of the box. I probably could have die cut the Sherpa with the dies because the dies are such high quality. However, my die cutting plates are not. I have new ones coming, but for right now, I decided that I would just use it as a pattern, and I think it worked out perfectly. But next month, I will be back using the candy corn die, and we're going to see what we can do with that and how we can kind of bump it up a little bit. But guys, for now, this has been Nancy, the Handy Scandy, for This Calls for Confetti. Thank you so much for joining me. I will have the products linked downstairs in the description box. Hop on over to the store if you're interested in buying anything. And until next time, mwah, I'm out.